Councillor Brown. I'm just checking to see if I have Councillor Cooper. No Councillor Cooper. Councillor Fagan is our chair. Councillor Robb. I don't have Councillor Robb. Councillor Ross is here. Councillor Walker. Paul Manning is here. I have Lorraine O'Hagan in attendance and Craig Ferguson, but Jackie Taylor is not in attendance. I don't have Sumanson Gupta, apologies. Apologies from Jan Gardner, NHS. I have Professor Pravin Kumar. Apologies from Hisashi. Jimmy Wilson from Vaslan. I don't seem to have him. And I don't have Thomas Adamson. We have a number of officers in attendance as well. I'll hand over to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. To come to item 1, which is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm not seeing any. So can I come now to item 2, which are the minutes of the previous meeting? They are submitted for approval. Are there any questions on the minutes of the previous meeting? I'm not seeing any questions. So can we agree those as a correct record? We're agreed. Thank you. I'll come now to item 3, which is a presentation on Business Gateway. I think we're just making sure we've got Phil Duncan and Jazz Macbeth to join us. I think Jazz will be sharing the presentation and is able to join us online now.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'll just get started. Bill is having some challenges joining, so I'll steer ahead and hopefully he can join in later on. So we've been given 10-15 minutes just to talk through the Business Gateway programme here in Lanarkshire. So myself as Enterprise Development Officer, Bill Duncan, the Enterprise Development Manager. We have 20 here in the team that cover Lanarkshire. So for those that are not aware, Business Gateway is a publicly funded service providing access to free and impartial business advice. It's Scottish Government's mechanism to deliver business advice across Scotland for pre-start and existing businesses. So from April the 1st, 2008, gosh, and to all the way along to 29th of April, February this year, the service was delivered across Lanarkshire by external contractors. Having undertaken an options appraisal, the Gateway service was brought in-house as of the 1st of March this year. So currently we have 20 staff that two-paid over into North Lanarkshire Council, are employees of North Lanarkshire Council, but still delivering the service pan-Lanarkshire. So just to cover off very quickly the national objectives, and I'm conscious that you might not have a copy of this presentation, so I can share that on following the meeting today. But Business Gateway have national objectives that we adhere to. So it's to support people with the ambitions to start a business. Beyond that, for those that are already running a business, it's to help survive past that first year and then beyond, achieve growth ambitions, aspirations to employ, ultimately to support people beyond running that business and being able to create employment and wealth in the community. So ultimately, it's also to focus working on the underrepresented groups, and I'll go into a wee bit more detail in the next slide. So what the service has allowed us to do this year, having come into the public sector back in-house, is identify local priorities within both North and South Lanarkshire. So specifically for South Lanarkshire, we now have a focus with the advisors and the team to reach into the communities and really take the service to the people. Previously, when delivered by third-party contractors, we may have had a base in each region, North and South, but now what we are looking to do is get these workshops, get our events, get our team out on the road, and we're covering rural areas and the SIMD areas as well, to tap into, as I mentioned, the underrepresented groups, which are those that are long-term unemployed. So working alongside the employability teams, routes to work in the south, looking at people in the schools. So we support with the initiatives, things like Sharks Reef that are running in the schools programme, Young Enterprise, and then also with the ethnic minority grouping and disabled, the disabled groups. So ultimately, the focus for Business Gateway at the moment is to support in all these areas. I won't take up the time to read through fully the slides, but social enterprises, employee-owned businesses fall under that as well. And then obviously we have the key sectors that we've always worked with, and those fall under the different areas of construction, food and drink, creative industries, manufacturing, engineering, tourism, and these align very much with the council's sectors as well, and the key priorities. And ultimately, the goal for Get Gateway is really to tap into the audience that haven't used us and haven't previously tapped into us as well. This year was the first year that I've been part of the service where we've had a new categorisation. So I believe in the last 14 years, this is the second time that we've changed the profiling of these customers. So we have a couple of different categories here. And again, won't go into too much detail, but what it does is it breaks it down into the customer coming through the door and profiled as either a pre-start business, pre-start plus, the difference there being those that want to then employ members of staff and achieve a VAT threshold, so up to £90,000 turnover in year one of starting that business. We do engage with audiences that then already might have started a business and ultimately have started without our support but need that support year one. So these are categorised in the new business or the new business plus. And again, the plus being the piece that they're looking to employ or achieve that VAT threshold. We have a huge number of inquiries that come through just as established businesses. So again, those trading over a year at this point. And not everybody then is looking to grow, but we have the growth aspiration category, and that's ultimately our team of people that are working with people that have a £200,000 aspiration growth over a couple of years.
Jazz, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we were trying to get a message to you to say that the presentation that we have, we're still on that first slide, and we were as you were speaking, I think we were expecting to roll through them. So, but if you were speaking, you probably wouldn't have seen any message coming to you. No. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to. Let me just see if I can change that. Let me just go back into. Why is that not doing it? Apologies. You'll have sat there looking for slides that don't exist. Oh, bear with me. Are you able to see it now that I'm changing it?
We can see that, but we think if you go to slideshow, we should be. If you go to the slideshow option, you should be able to make it larger and kind of talk us through.
So if I do from the current slide, if I've changed slides there, does that change it for you?
No. You're on the numbers October 2024. Is that what you want us to see?
What I'll do is I'll stop sharing completely and then try again. Apologies. This is if I go to the entire screen. Let's see if that changes. Oh no, that's not.
This is it's all getting a bit meta just now. Right?
Any better there?
So hang on a second here. If you go to the slideshow option there, and from beginning, and I think if you click, that will take us through it. And this is now working. Yeah. Okay.
Thankfully, right. So I'd already taken you through that slide. Apologies. And the national objectives. We'd covered local objectives, and I think I was just on this client categorisation slide. So is that all right just to pick up from here?
That's fine, yeah.
Fantastic. So I still can't see you. Just shout out, councillor, and let me know. So ultimately, I think what I was trying to say is that the categorisation and the different sectors that we can put customers into is allowing us to identify the need and the support the customer needs. What this new service is really asking us to do is to align our time and the resource that we have to spend with the customers that have, I suppose, the most requirement of our time, that have the ambition and ultimately the level of engagement. Not everybody that has a phone call into us or has an interaction with Gateway is looking for an intense level of support, but ultimately now what the advisors are looking to do is spend time with those that are really making the greater impact back into the community. So these categories ultimately are an internal thing, but worth just highlighting that we have the ability to profile a customer through the inquiries that we have. And the last piece there I didn't get to cover was local priority. The local priorities are now set by each local authority, and And ultimately, it gives us a little bit more time to work with that customer. They might not have a growth aspiration. They might not achieve that number. However, it might be a survivability. It might be safeguarding jobs, and that allows the team to then get in and support with that. Ultimately, Business Gateway as a service, as a national service. It's a national foundation, but a local service. So we have a huge amount of resource and data and support available through the national platform, bgateway.com. We have workshops, webinars, which go on every single day of the week on the national platform, but we do those locally as well. As I mentioned, we're into the heart of the community. And online tools are really now steering a customer through that journey. What is it that they need, and how can we support them? So there's a couple of new tools that they've launched over the last couple of years, Planning to Start, which takes the customer through a number of questions. It helps them profile the stage of their business journey. But similarly, if they're not at that concept idea, they've already been trading a couple of years, strengthening your business is another thing in there that will help them then get to the right advisor. And we still offer the digital health check. So last but not least, it's worth mentioning about the inquiry fulfilment service. There's a wealth of information available through this service that sits out in Clydebank, and all the customers can access that for free and pull an array of support to fill in their business plans or to be able to operate their business. So ultimately, the team at the moment, the advisors, in capacity 13 advisors. We've got 12 at the moment with one that we've just recruited, but they're split over into 3 teams. So we have a startup service, a moderate growth and a high growth service. And ultimately, it's a variety of different tools that we'll use to be able to give them. But at the core of it, it's the dedicated advisory support. It's the one-to-one support. When a customer calls in, we have a standard level of service of 3 working days to go back to a client. And ultimately, it's to make that contact and engage with that customer and guide them through the business journey. We have similar service for the growth, but ultimately the dedicated support might just be a little bit more intense. It could be then being able to tap into other partners that can support with that survivability. And I guess in my next slide, I'll talk through about the additional areas of support. So once a customer comes in, we profile what support they need. A personalised action plan is then generated, and the advisor has that space and time to work with that customer for the life of their business. The national database we use, it's a Scottish-wide database. Scottish Enterprise tap into the same database as do Skills Development Scotland, but ultimately that database keeps the records for the customer for the life of that business journey. And additionally, working with South Lanarkshire Council, we have a framework of experts that we can tap into, fully funded for the customer, and there's an array of subjects there that they can utilise, and it could be up to 5 days worth of consultancy support that we can tap into for supporting business there. Hopefully I'm still flicking through these slides, so just keep me right. Other business partners that we will signpost out to and work alongside, in addition to the local authorities, both North and South Lanarkshire Council. If a business then has an aspiration to grow exceptionally and they fit with the missions of Scottish Enterprise, we'll work alongside that account manager for the benefit of the business. I've mentioned Skills Development Scotland again there, and they will come along and support with apprenticeship funding and support around upskilling team members of an existing business, and then a whole array of other ecosystem partners. And again, I won't go through them, but you can see a list of them there. Just to give you a bit of context then for the number of inquiries that we have coming through the service. So typically in a year on average, we're looking at around the 3,000 inquiries that will come into the service just in Lanarkshire alone. Of that, the pre-start side and the new business side sits at about 2,000 inquiries. Those inquiries find their way to us into a queue system, and that can be through the website, the national platform. It can be through that fulfilment centre, the inquiry service, through Business Gateway nationally. It can be through just your odd phone call coming through, email, social media, and then obviously if we're out and about with our social media pages, we've got local events and workshops, and then ultimately clients can refer people in and partner referrals. Of the 2,000, at the pre-start new business stage, we will look for targets to be achieved at 750 new business starts and 200 new business pluses. So a reminder, new business pluses, those that will be looking to employ and achieve the VAT threshold in year 1. So that will be the target at the start-up side. from the existing business, so those that have been trading over a year. Typically, the inquiry levels, and they're staying about the same for this year. If anything, they're increasing. It's about the 1,000 mark, and again, the targets are aligned. So a business-based inquiry, which is the majority of the inquiries that group sits within, is those people that are just looking for a little bit of hand-holding, a little bit of support. It could be just a social media campaign. It could be an HR expert surgery. We have 700 of those, and the trends at the moment are towards that 700, of which we will identify 150 as a local priority and 150 of those to grow. And again, a huge part of this new service is relying on the engagement from that customer to be able to hit those numbers. So to date, just to give you some context, pre-start inquiries, we've had 505 for South Lanarkshire. So what we have done is we've split this out between, normally we would report in both North and South. This is just South Lanarkshire's numbers. Pre-start inquiries have come in at 505 year to date. Established business 297. So as I mentioned, it tends to be 2/3 one way and 1/3 the other. And of that, for the South, we have secured 131 starts. Of that, new business pluses that are aspiring to achieve that growth threshold in year one, 16, local priority 12, and the business growth at 16, and then, business base at 195. So again, our year end will be the 31st of March next year, and the team are working hard to get to those targets that we've set for them on an individual basis. So just coming up for the last couple of slides, it's not always just about the numbers and the targets. There is a quality about the service, and there is an independent body that Business Gateway nationally employ to go out to speak to all of our customers. So every customer that does engage with the service, and for Lanarkshire, as I mentioned, the 200 a month, will be tapped into, will be contacted to be asked to fill out some questions around their satisfaction with the service. And then we get these reports in quarterly. So you'll see up there, it says if a customer isn't satisfied, a hot alert will be raised and sent. In this case, it will be North Lanarkshire Council that get that as our employer. And that comes through to myself and Bill to tackle. It's very rare that actually happens. I don't recall the last time that we've had that. And ultimately, these quarterly reports will give us feedback on the overall satisfaction with the service, if it's met expectations, whether the business has received any service that they'll benefit from. And the key factor in here, would they recommend Business Gateway to another organisation or a person? And nationally, we have a target of 80% that we have to achieve. So I'm pleased to say that in July to September's survey that has come through, all but one, where we've been challenged with some numbers from last year, the satisfaction with the service is fairly high. So you can see that it's sitting around the 88% mark. And ultimately the satisfaction levels, this is what the team work towards. So we've got the expectations met, the beneficial to the service, recommending service and likely to continue using it, and then the satisfaction with the local office there as well. So I can go into more detail on that if anybody needs to see that. So I suppose just to finalise this presentation, and as I mentioned, I don't think Bill got on, and apologies, we were meant to be sharing this out, but what does success look like? So by the 31st of March of our first year being in, to bid into the local authority, our ideal is to be able to achieve those targets, which Business Gateway predominantly have always achieved when the service was delivered by a third-party contractor. We hope to have increased engagement with those non-engaged businesses, and marketing, our two marketing ladies are working very strongly on that. Ideally, strong connections and examples of being able to give you to work with the local authority, and really getting into these departments. So the planning department, the rates departments, environmental health, working a lot much more closer with these teams to be able to deliver this service, and subsequently that will increase that satisfaction level. Ideally, the measurements, the quarterly surveys will reflect if we do all this part right, and ultimately what we wanted to deliver is the survivability of startups for them to get past year 1, 3, 5, and ultimately grow and employ within that area, and be able to deliver that service throughout the increased locations. And I probably should mention, we've been out as far as we're in Rutherglen today, actually, delivering a new style boot camp for startups. It attracted a whole new market that we haven't reached out before. And similarly, last month we were out in Douglas and were able to achieve some decent numbers for the workshop. So I think that's there's lots to come. So that really is us. That's just our details to reach out, and you're welcome to share that with anybody. But I'll stop sharing just now in case anybody has any questions, so I can see faces.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And it might make sense to circulate the presentation afterwards, just if there was anything that we missed, we can pick up. Before I open for
Thank
questions,
you.
I also just want to say, I think Councillor Brown and I were members of the now defunct steering group. Option, so to everyone that was involved in the options appraisal process and the process of bringing that service in-house, just want to put on record our thanks and our recognition for that. Can I throw open this now to see if there are any questions on the presentation, either in the room or online? I'm not seeing any. Oh, no, sorry, I do have a question from Councillor Margaret Walker.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting, and it's good to see how all these different organisations kind of link together and work together. You had mentioned that a part of your remit was to try and get people who'd been long-term unemployed back to work, and some people who had perhaps been ill or in relation to disability or mental health. And that's obviously a really important area just now when you think of the numbers of inactive people, and in particular young people as well, although across the board that we have within Scotland and the UK. So can you tell me how that kind of actually works? Would that would be part of your kind of contract as you work with new and existing businesses, and how you build that in, and how they would support people that were getting back into the workplace? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. So absolutely, we are a generalist service. So whilst we don't have any barriers for anybody reaching out to us, we're very mindful that there are certain groups that wouldn't necessarily think to pick up the phone or pop their details into an online form for having us reach out to them. So what we have done this year so far, just for particular South Lanarkshire, we'd reached out to Routes to Work South and the job centres, and looked to see where we could then tap into an audience that might not necessarily fit the workforce and jobs. And I think parents have been a big focus this year. So certainly anybody that was looking for an alternative route back into work, then self-employment might be an option. So we did an event back at, it was probably about the summertime of last year, over in the CTEC building in Cambuslang. And that worked really well, which allowed some of the caseworkers with an audience that we wouldn't normally have come to us. We've been to them. And likewise, we've had the employability teams for South Lanarkshire come out and meet the team, educate us on what it is that is there as an incentive for an employer. So whilst we can also be working with the customers and the underrepresented groups themselves, the team also work with established businesses that can take on some of these people as part of their community interests and being able to give back to the community. So there's quite a lot of work being done in that area, and that's part of the advisor's job, as well as these targets, to be able to work with businesses. There's a community engagement piece, actually, which we didn't necessarily cover in this presentation, but maybe for the next one. The team are out, and different advisors are then selected to go into the schools to go and find mentors for these businesses that we're working with, and really do a fully rounded approach. So that is ongoing, and it's a constant. But even just with the social media aspect of it, we're looking at different ways that we have all these events that happen every calendar month, and it's how we can then tap into these events and really support the local community and be really where they wouldn't expect to find us. Does that answer the question?
We've got it. Thank you very much. I'm going to bring in the Chief Executive now, Paul Manning.
Listen, hi, Jazz, and thanks for the presentation, which was terrific. And I suppose one of the things I was going to ask was, just given that this is a new format and we've got the in-house provision, how did this compare to what was there before, in your own feel for that? And you went on towards the end of the presentation to give some really good statistics about satisfaction, which is terrific, which looks really positive. And then that slide at the end about what success looks like. And I suppose one of the things that I'm keen to know is, you know, totally get that that's what success looks like. How will we know, right, how that's shaped up, right, in terms of your first period of operation? And how are you going to report that? It would be good for me to know that, Jazz. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for that question. And again, the powers that be, Ian Ross, I know he's not on the call today. We actually tap in with a monthly meeting with Ian Ross. So Bill and myself report in the stats. So some of the stats that you see, we monitor that on a monthly basis. We monitor against target. To go back to your first question about how it compares. So I think what it has done is it's probably opened a lot more doors coming in-house, because as a contractor, you're only given rights to access certain departments, certain data, but now being in-house, being part of the local authority, we work very closely with Elliot Jordan and his team to be able to be that face of business advisory support for South Lanarkshire. So ultimately, the ability to be able to go and speak to the departments more closely. So I think I mentioned there, we're speaking with planning and the rates team and trading standards. We've had a connection there. It's just that the access and the referral is much better than before. But I guess it really, Paul, comes down to what what's driving, what the priorities are for the area. What does South Lanarkshire want us to do? And it's a better steer. So the contract was set in stone. Now we can potentially amend the priorities to fit what the local region needs. How will we deliver? Its numbers are on track. It's a double whammy to paying in and having a new service being launched, and nothing ever runs on time. So we were a wee bit late into that service and getting the model set up. But the advisors are out there and they're working really, really hard. And the inquiry numbers are actually up for every single month, year on year. So I think, if anything, we monitor it monthly come the year end. The hardest part sometimes is measuring the output. So how much did an impact of working with a customer make? And that part we're working on, because some of that data is qualitative. You can add the numbers. Yes, we've started a business, but the growing, how somebody's grown, how their survivability has happened, that's measured over a longer period of time. So I think that's something that we are working on to try and understand, and it's keeping that level of engagement. It's hugely important right now to work with a customer that wants to engage, to have an action plan that's twofold. It's got to be both sides. And bearing in mind we're a reactive service, we're not an account management service. It's we're asking a lot of that team to be able to go in and do short, sharp intervention, get things moving and improve the results. But I'm hoping by the year end we'll be able to have that data for you, but it is being monitored monthly. Does that answer the question? Oh, I can't hear you.
Listen, you couldn't hear me, Jazz, because my microphone wasn't turned on. There's no mystery there, right? But listen, that's a really good answer, and it gives me an idea as to how this is moving forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. There's a slight delay with the microphones coming on, which seems to be the issue. I've spotted it twice now. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So, Jazz, can I thank you very much for your presentation, and please pass on our thanks to the team. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll come now to the next item of business, which is the Community Wealth Building Action Plan Q2 update, and Neil Reid is with us, who's going to speak to the report. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. No delay there, that was quick. Yeah, so this is the action plan for the Community Wealth Building Strategy, and it's reporting the period from April 2024 to the end of September 2024, and it covers the 71 actions which are in the action plan for this year. It follows a standard format, so as usual we explain the sort of the traffic light convention that we have at 4.3, a description of what the traffic light status means, and at 4.4 in the covering report there's a summary of how those actions are doing and how they've been classed. So you can see there that there are 58 actions, or 82% are deemed to be on track. They've either completed or they're going according to plan at this point in time. 6 of them, 8% are amber, which means there's a degree of slippage against what was expected. And 7 actions, that's 10%, will be reported at the end of the year because there's maybe not enough information at this point in time to make a determination. But there's a bit of narrative about all of the actions, all 71, in the appendix to the report, Appendix 1, and that comes from our Performance System Improve. So essentially that's the report, and the recommendation is to note the content. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions in that report? Could you please indicate now? I'm not seeing any questions, so we will note that report. Just checking that that's all we need to do. It is indeed. And that brings us to item 5, which is the Community Wealth Building Risk Register. Craig Ferguson is going to talk us through that. Craig.
Thank you, Chair. So the report provides the Commission with an update on the risk register for community wealth building. Section 3 provides a background, outlining the purpose of the register is to ensure the Commission is fully aware of its strategic risks. These risks are prioritised, and also importantly, controls are in place to eliminate and minimise the impact of these risks. The risks themselves are scored on an inherent risk score basis, which is the risk if you do nothing, or the residual risk, which is the risk after applying controls. Moving on to Section 4. So the register itself is now being reviewed and streamlined following a period of consultation with the community wealth building lead officers, and that work was completed during September. So the risks for the community wealth building strategy have been identified. They are now shown as 5 single overarching risks, one for each of the 5 pillars we have within the community wealth building strategy. And there's a risk card for each of these risks, and they individually note the risk elements identified for that pillar. The risk register that's been prepared following consultation is detailed in Table 1, just below that section. So what we have here is within the Table 1, we have spend, finance and property, all with a top residual score of 12, and then building and generative economy, residual score of 8, and workforce scoring 6. The full risk control cards, including the recorded control measures, they're attached as Appendix 1 to the report. As part of the exercise, we also considered the benefit of having a separate risk control plan in addition to the overarching community wealth building action plan. And previously, the risk control plan replicated a number of actions that were already contained within the overarching action plan itself. That led to a lot of duplication of effort by officers when updates were being provided. So in short, as the new overarching action plan is recently being refreshed, and also the new actions noted mitigate the risks identified, it's considered there's no requirement now for a separate risk control plan going forward. However, if any new risk actions arise to aid risk mitigation, these can be added to the overarching community wealth building action plan. Moving on to Section 5, in terms of monitoring and reporting arrangements, the Community Wealth Building Progress Group will continue to review and update the risk register as required, and an annual report will come to the Commission for approval. If we refer Commission back to the recommendations in the report, Recommendation 1 is that the content of the risk register is approved, and Recommendation 2 noting the point that the Community Wealth Building Progress Group will continue to review and update the risk register as required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Craig. Can I ask if there are any questions in that report? I'm not seeing any questions, so can I draw us back to the recommendations? Can I ask, are we happy to agree those recommendations? We're agreed. Thank you very much. I will move now to item 6, which is our annual procurement report, and we're still with Craig to speak to this report. Craig.
Thanks again, Chair. So this report provides the Commission with South Lanarkshire Council's annual procurement report for 23-24. In terms of background to the report, it is confirmed that the Procurement Reform Act 2014 requires contracting authorities to prepare and publish an annual report on its regulated procurement activity. So this report to the Commission provides an overview of the annual report. The full annual report itself is provided in Appendix 1. So beginning with section 4, list there in the bullet points the requirements of the Act in terms of the content the annual report should include, and that essentially kind of reflects the format of the report as set out. At 4.2, we just confirm there the degree of procurement activity that took place in respect of railway procurements. And for the year just past, as detailed in Appendix 1, with 196 contracts worth £50,000 in value, with a total value of £315 million. Section 3 covers procurement compliance. The annual report highlights those actions completed during the year, including improved levels of local spend, efficiency that were delivered by the Procure Spend Review, and also implementation of the community benefit monitoring software. Importantly, at section 4, this covers community wealth building and also community benefits. Pleasing to report local spend improved from 18% in 22-23 to 19.5% in 23-24, and that represents £67 million of spend with local enterprises. Moving on to 4.5 and section 5 of the report, this covers the activity in relation to sustainable procurement and all supported businesses. Noting just in the first paragraph there, the use of the sustainability test to embed sustainability measures in the new Care at Home contract. We also know in the paragraph below the contractual activities with supported businesses and social enterprises, including Haven Products, Hey Girls, and also Scotland's bravest manufacturing company. In terms of future planning activity, this is covered in section 6. And this outlines the activity we expect to undertake in the next 2 years, including contract renewals and also new contracts. And the detail of that is included in Appendix 3. This highlights a lot of work around high-value construction, IT and economic development projects, and also continuing phases of the various education and social care long-term procured service arrangements. Section 7 of the report covers information not actually prescribed within the regulations themselves. We use this as an opportunity to highlight our geographical spend across Scotland. We also highlight as well our spend through Scotland Excel frameworks, and a slight reduction in the year to 6.7 million. And importantly, a second point related here highlights very much the significance of collaboration with £70 million of spend directed to South Lanarkshire companies from their participation within Scotland Excel frameworks. That's an increase from 62 million in the previous year. So the annual report itself is provided in Appendix 1 to this report, and if further Commission back to the recommendations, the annual report for 23-24 for the Council be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Craig. And can I welcome in particular that £4 million increase in procurement with local firms in South Lanarkshire? Can I ask if there are any questions on the report, and can I come to Robert Brown?
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. I am conscious, I'm sure I've seen figures on this about other local authorities, that our figures are still relatively low, I think, overall. And I wondered what scope there was for manoeuvre in terms of being able to make a bit more of an impact on this. I appreciate we're within the tendered framework, if you like, and I think part of the issue is getting people registered with the Scotland Excel framework and so forth, but anything on that would be welcome, Craig.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that what you've summarised there essentially is a kind of core focus to the work of the Spend Pillar Working Group. The previous report presented by Neil there just detailed the wide range of activity currently underway to improve the promotional activity around the tendering opportunities we have, but also importantly as well to ensure businesses in South Lanarkshire are as tender ready as they can be. You may also recall reports provided to the Commission around 18 months ago. That's outlined the kind of landscape for businesses within South Lanarkshire. And this is very much a kind of a background to which we have to work within, where there's one particular report we tabled that just drew out the comparisons in the kind of scale of the construction industry within South Lanarkshire relative to that within North. And what that analysis showed was that in South Lanarkshire we had a higher percentage of small and medium businesses, whereas in North Lanarkshire the much greater proportion of larger businesses. So certainly that kind of background, if you like, in terms of the structure of our local economy does have a bearing in terms of what we can achieve. However, you also recall the changes we made quite early on in our community wealth building journey to change our rules in relation to quick quote. That's a fairly positive impact, I would suggest. But again, going back to your broader point, it still requires local business to register for PCST. We do now monitor those registrations through the action plan. So we're making sure the action plan has the right kind of blend of both kind of quantitative and also qualitative measures. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have two more questions. So could I come to Councillor Ross?
Yes, thanks very much, Joe. I'd like to thank Craig for his report. I know how difficult it is working under these circumstances, but achieving an increase in the spend locally is certainly a step in the right direction. I think anybody that was at the procurement awareness session understands the problems we have in making sure that one, businesses are quote ready, and two, that they actually are resident in South Lanarkshire and that we can take credit for that increase. So all the more power to his elbow. I understand the problems, but it's nice to see a step in the right direction. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And I suppose we should also just thank everyone involved in that education and awareness piece to make sure that elected members are aware of the work that is going on behind this. Could I come now to Josephine Pravankumar?
Very helpful report. Yeah, so I was just looking at section 4, if I can just ask for clarification. I suppose, I mean, huge difference in terms of the numbers reported there, but I was looking particularly at the education and career development support and echo the comments of Councillor Ross there as well in terms of that huge increase. We've seen 6 times increase between last year and now, but in terms of poverty initiatives, there doesn't seem to be any link or change in that for 23-24. So just want to know, you know, what type of things that come under the education career development support, and you know, and which is very positive. And is there anything we need to be thinking around the poverty initiatives section? Thank you.
Okay, Craig.
Okay, thanks. I think I've forgotten the question now. If I pitch up there, it was in relation to the educational career development support. We show a fairly large increase there in community benefits from 22 to 23-24. That's what I need to take back, if you don't mind, is provide some more information in respect to the background there. Thank you.
Okay, apologies, but we're having some of these issues with the delay in the microphones. So I think what we're saying, we'll take that one away and come back with some more information. I don't see any other questions on this item. So could I bring us back and just ask us to note that report? And I'll move now to item 7. Now, on item 7, we were hoping to provide an update, but there is an announcement around this that we don't want to preempt. So have we got Jen on the meeting?
Yes.
Jen, this may therefore be a very short report. So, but could I bring you in just now? Bring her in. Huh? There we go, Jen.
Hi, my microphone working? Everyone can hear it? Okay. Hi, so further to the briefing, I think the last time we came to the Commission with a briefing on the Marmot Place application, I thought I might just remind everyone what Marmot Place is. It's a sort of place approach to an evidence-based place approach where partners collaborate to reduce inequalities in a defined place. And that place could be a town, a neighborhood, or a whole authority. And I think we were discussing whether or not we'd put in an application alongside our colleagues in NHS Lanarkshire and the Community Planning Partnership. And if that application should be a whole authority-wide area or focus on Hamilton and the town planning exercise taking place there. So I just wanted to update partners that we have, in fact, put in an expression of interest and we're shortlisted for discussion. And we put that expression of interest in on the basis of all of South Lanarkshire. However, with the idea that we would be looking at rurality and the opportunities we have around spatial planning that are coming forward, and that this application recognizes that Marmot is a whole system, and that our health life expectancy is shaped by many things, mostly social and economic factors, the things we talk about here at Community Wealth Building. And the 8 Marmot principles in that application are the things that we focus on in our community plan as well, because we know those are all relevant and they're all the things we look at here. So the application talks about sort of community wealth building practice really. Social and economic factors affect our health behaviors affect our health, services affect our health, but actually so does our physical environment. So we took that into account in how much we have, and we've been shortlisted, and I'm pleased to kind of update the group on that. And we are working now to look at possibly some next steps. And Paul, would you like to add anything to that, or?
Well, listen, I'm happy to come in on that. We'd actually put this on the agenda in the belief that we were going to be the subject of a press release yesterday, which would indicate that we're going to be one of those 3 Marmot councils. So that hasn't gone out. It's not going to go out until tomorrow. But we've checked with the people at Public Health Scotland, and they're content for us to update the Community Wealth Building Commission that this is the case. So there is going to be, for members of the council, an update provided to the Executive Committee, so that will be available when the papers are issued later on today, and we'll get a briefing out round our elected members, and we'll extend that to the members of the Community Wealth Building Commission as well, just detailing what this is about, what the background is and where they can get more information, and how we propose to engage with members moving forward to keep you updated on it. So this is a very positive thing, and I know members will join with me in welcoming this as an outcome for the council. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, and well done to everyone who, including Jen and others who have pulled together that bid. We're pleased to report that it's been a success. Are there any questions? I suspect there will be more once the paper appears in the Executive Committee packs and we're able to assess a paper. But thank you very much. If there are no questions, can I then move on to item 8, which is the forward programme for future meetings. It is as set out in your papers. I'm not proposing to take any discussion on it unless there are any questions. If there are no questions, can we note that item that brings us to any other competent business? I've not been notified of any other business, so thank you for your attendance. I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you.